Okay, so I'm getting ready to add salt to the pool. This is the manual for the saltwater system. This is the thing that actually generates chlorine by breaking the salt electrically. And this is how you chlorinate the water. You still may have to add shock to it every so often, but this will take care of most of your routine stuff. They give you a few different things. Now, when you're going to do this, one of the things you have to be aware of is you are going to have to add not just salt, but you're also going to have to add cyanuric acid, which helps to stabilize the chemicals in the pool. There's a bunch of different things. So make sure you read the manual and follow the instructions so your water stays in the way that it's supposed to be, so it's safe to swim in, most of all. As you can see down here, this is my saltwater chlorinator, and that is my sand filter, pumps on the other side. The main return jet is right there, so that's where we're going to be adding the salt. And every pool is different. Once again, read your manual, how much salt you need. In my case, they say 150 pounds to start. Salt comes. These are what I happen to get, 40-pound bags. They say pool salt. I really don't know exactly what the difference is. You might find, I don't know. I looked at it, I think, last year, and I thought, you know, maybe water softener salt looked like it was the same thing. However, it doesn't come. This comes like table salt. It comes real fine, ground up. And water softener salt tends to come as pellets. So I think they suggest you going around the pool in a circle and mixing the water and all this kind of thing. But I know from my own experience, just this circulating, the pool will absorb all the salt it's supposed to, because of the really good circulation that's going on in here. So you just simply pour your salt in, and I'm just doing it right here in front of the jet because I know that's going to mix it as good as anything. And yes, I am cheap. I wash the bag out, get the last of it out of there. So now to 80 pounds of salt. We'll go to 150. So with all your salt in the pool, and if you need help getting it stirred up, and you see I still get some in there that isn't entirely mixed in, but I know over time it will get in, or if my kids get in there and jump around, it will definitely all dissolve. But already the chlorinator is working. Now, the nice thing about this is Chlorinator has these cells that actually electrically, what they are is a series of plates, and you can kind of see through there. I guess you can't really, but there's a series of plates, and as you can see, you might be able to catch, there's like little wisps, they look almost like bubbles coming off, and that actually is, it's turning table salt, which is chlorine and sodium, which are two very highly reactive things. That's what table salt is. And actually, I did read in the manual, you can use water softener pellets. They just don't dissolve as quickly, which is why they recommend the granulated salt. But don't use table salt that has iodine. That's not good for your pool. What it's doing is it's cracking that salt electrically into chlorine and sodium, which are both highly reactive, which is good because it's treating the water as it flows through. Now, there's a grid over here, and I don't see that it's doing anything, but I don't understand everything about it, and that is correct. It's always one side that's doing all the work, and the other side that is just there because copper electrodes. I don't know exactly everything they do. This here unit in the middle is a flow switch. It's just a little vein, and when the water flow is going, it's up, and when the water flow stops, it goes down. And the reason it's connected is so this control unit knows that the water is flowing, because it can't do, you don't want to do this work without the water flowing. It would cause problems and it could probably destroy the unit. It is all self-contained. This is the transformer that takes house current turns into whatever voltage it works with. This is your control panel. There is an on-off switch over here in the back. Just leave it on. In my case, because I have a sand filter with a big pump, and figuring the volume of my pool, I have my filter set on a timer to run for about 4 hours. And technically, I think based on the gallons per hour this thing flows, that should filter the equivalent of all of the water in my pool, which is 6,400 gallons. But like I said, read what the manual has to say, because every pool is a different size. Even an 18-foot diameter, which is what mine is, you can have variation still. So your pump size makes a big difference. But the thing that's nice is this is plugged into the same plug that is. They'll come on together, and this, when you turn it on, it thinks for a minute, and then it starts its cycle. Now I have it programmed to go for 3 hours because I'm right on that borderline between 2 and 3, depending on the temperature of the water. So I just set it to 3. I can dial it back if I need to. Like I said, my pump runs for 4 hours. And then we have that little flow switch in the middle. So the flow switch will sense water pressure. This will come on, it'll do its cycle, and it'll be done. It'll stop, and everything will be happy. And the pump will continue to circulate for a little longer, which they say is a good thing. They recommend at least 15 minutes after this cycle, which you can set it up to 12 hours. And if that was true, I would need to set this for like 12 and a half hours, just to be sure. But in this case, I'm doing 4. This is running for 3. I'll still get some circulation, and I have it set to come on in the afternoon, which is the most likely time my kids would be in the pool. And then after they would get out, it would run for a while and continue to filter the water before it shut off. It's a very nice thing. I mean, you still have to test your water. You still got to look for, they give you test strips for dissolved copper, because like I said, I think this electrode on this side, there's like copper. I've had a couple of these now. And this one, you can see like there's blocks of copper in there, and it looks like it must be dissolving that copper away electrically. If you get into chemistry, you'll understand what's going on. But if you've ever done electrolysis and actually split water into hydrogen and oxygen, this is basically what we're doing here, except we're doing it to the sodium and the chlorine, which are stable as table salt and very unstable as anything else in their natural state. So, and they combine, and I think almost by the time they get up to this and shoot back into the pool, they're already converting back into salt, which is very stable, won't harm you. The salt level in this pool is actually pretty low. Like, you can open your eyes when you're swimming and it won't burn. It's not even, when you taste it, it's not even quite as salty as your own tears. You can slightly taste it, but it won't taste salty like your own tears will. And still got to test it, but this right here cuts down on the amount of chlorine that I will have to buy over a season to keep it chlorinated. And the nice thing is, unless the water gets splashed out that is carrying the salt doesn't go anywhere. It converts itself back into salt and stays in the pool. And, you know, until I get to the end of the season, I just dump the water. The only thing I may have to do is, there are lights on this control panel. There is a low pump flow, which is one you need to watch out for. Even with the sand filter, you can have it plug up to the point that it's really not flowing water anymore. There's a low salt light, which if you get below a certain parts per million of salt, it will come on. The high salt. Service, that is talking about if this grid in here, there's plates, and stuff can build up in between them depending on what's in your water, different things. And so you take it and you soak it in vinegar. Some people mention uric acid, but be very careful because that's really strong stuff. Vinegar is much safer to work with, and that's what they recommend in the manual. Soak it in vinegar, and that will clear off a lot of that. You can kind of get in and work a little bit with a brush inside, but very, very small brush, and be very careful you don't damage anything. And then the other light that is here is a boost, which if you have a lot of people in your pool, especially if they're little kids, you think they're peeing, hit this boost button and it kind of gives it an extra jolt of energy or something. I don't know, it does a little bit more, it might run for longer. And the sleep button. Sleep button means it's completed its cycle. You know, like I have, you can see the display here, it says 3 hours. So after 3 hours, this will go to sleep, meaning it's seeing that the water is still flowing, but it's done with its cycle for the day, and in 24 hours, it's, or, you know, obviously less than 21 hours in my case, it's going to be looking for this flow switch to say, hey, we got flow, and it's going to kick on and do all that. Now, the nice thing is, where it's on a timer and it's just shutting off, that doesn't hurt anything, because every time it comes back on, it starts its cycle over again. So you can do this two ways. You can leave it plugged into the house current all the time and let it just wait until the flow comes on, or you can put it on the same timer as your pump and it'll just wake up and go, oh, we got water flow, let's go. Either way works. I don't think they say that one is going to destroy it or the other. But that's the salt system. Like I said, there's extra chemicals that go with this, like the cyanuric acid that you need to keep up with. But other than that, it actually helps make the pool need less overall maintenance, which is a good thing. Since I mentioned it, I figure I might as well show it. As I mentioned, canoe paddle. I have a bunch because I'm a boater. And just simply, you don't even have to hit the salt that's on the bottom of your pool. You just simply have to get it swirling with the water to hope it evaporates. And the more that you get the water flowing, the more it's going to disperse. And the more it disperses, the more it will dissolve. It's very simple. I know last time when I set this up last year, we simply got a couple of my other kids and we got this pool moving by paddling it really hard in one direction, like we were paddling a canoe. Because if you're my child, you know how to paddle a boat. If you've seen the rest of my channel, you see the kayaks that I build. And my kids almost grown up knowing how to paddle a boat. The oldest two have built boats. I just showed them what to do, they did the work. And the younger two will be learning before too long. It's a useful skill, if you ask me. Everyone should know how to paddle a boat. It's one of those things that I really think you should know how to build a boat. Even if it's just one of my foam kayaks instead of like a real solid wood boat or something made out of plywood. I've worked on all types, but you'll notice I stick with foam. It's just a lot easier to deal with. So I showed you before that there was some salt. There's still a little bit, but looking at the bottom of my pool, got a little bit of stuff to vacuum up there. But all in all, salt has dissolved. I gotta say, I really love these pools with the window on the side.